Nothing changes if nothing changes. I feel like that's something we've heard a lot, but what actually does that mean? I'm going to explain that for you today. So this is something that I've recently only began to understand. Why does nothing change if nothing changes? And what is it that needs to change? Your thoughts, in short. Your thoughts need to change. Why do your thoughts need to change in order for things to change in your life? For your, in other words, reality, or in other words, your experience change. So why do your thoughts need to change? Why does the way in which you think need to change in order to experience a new reality? Well, it's important to remember first that thoughts are the language of your brain and feelings are the language of your body. Just remember that. So when we have a thought, which is mainly negative, I think most of our thoughts that we are recurring thoughts, ones that we think about all day long, are mainly negative, first of all, which is something to note. So when we have a negative thought, what happens then is we have a negative feeling in our body. Because the brain doesn't know whether something is happening now or not. So we could have a negative thought about the past and our body will genuinely feel like it's in the past. It doesn't know the difference. Especially, with, presence kind of, when you dissociate, you get into that past moment and you really feel it, your body doesn't know, your brain doesn't know whether it's happening now or not. It just feels it. So then your body then matches to the thought that you've had and you get a negative feeling. You might get an anxious feeling, you might get angry, you might get tense, you might get sweats or something like that, right? In order to match. So what does that mean? That your thoughts produce your feelings. Okay? So your thoughts produce your feelings. So that means what? In order to have good feelings in your body, you need to have good thoughts. And that's why they say that when you have negative thoughts all the time, it can actually make your body sick, make you actually physically sick, because your body is actually just matching up to the way your thoughts are. And this has been proved with science. So what happens then? So if our thoughts create our feelings, so say we have a negative thought, we're feeling negative, we have a thought in our brains that something about our bodies, about how we don't like a part of our body, for example. Then what happens in the feelings, our feelings in our body? We maybe start to feel a bit insecure. Maybe we start to feel a bit self-conscious. And then also what happens is, that's a recurring cycle. Just the thoughts and the feelings. You think that thing about your body, you think, oh my God, this isn't right. And then you start to feel insecure. And then the more you feel insecure, the more thoughts come up about that insecurity, the more insecure you feel. And over time, that becomes a learned behavior. And you then are an insecure person. Through repetition. Through that repetition of that behavior that your brain just learns, because your brain likes repetition. It makes it feel safe. It likes habits. It likes form habits. And it doesn't know whether a habit is a good one or a bad one. It just knows that, this is what we do. So this is what is focused on all the time. This is what she focuses on. This is our pattern. This is what feels safe now. This is what feels normal to us. So even like something so good, an opportunity that maybe an insecure person would be afraid to do, their brain would say to them, no, I'd actually rather feel insecure and alone and upset rather than jumping into this crazy thing that could actually be really good for you. Your brain will say, no, let's actually I'd rather just feel insecure. Why? Because it's normal, it's safe, and it's familiar. And your brain doesn't really like unfamiliarity. It thinks it is a danger, because back when we had to hunt for our food, it was like, is that a lion? Is that, is that danger? Whereas like we don't really have that now, but our body hasn't kind of matched up to that yet, and we still kind of have that fight or flight. So just stepping out of the ordinary, whether it's like, for me, it was like going to the gym. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm too scared. It's like, girl, nothing's gonna happen to you. But your brain thinks that it is. Anyway, so what was I gonna say? Yeah, then that becomes a learned behavior. So if you're now an insecure person, what changes then? Your behavior changes. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, your behavior changes from your feelings. So if you've had an insecure thought, you now feel insecure, and now your behavior is you don't speak your mind. You don't speak up. You shy away from things that you want to do. You don't wear what you want to wear. You close yourself off. You don't, if it's a group or a presentation or something where you need to kind of voice opinions, you kind of stay in the back, hush, hush. Like, that affects your behavior, which then affects what? Your reality, the actions you take. So if you're an insecure person, you're less likely now to take risks. You're less likely to try something new, to step out of the comfort zone that you're in, because that's now something you've learned to do. So it's then affected your behavior, and then it's affected your reality. You don't go out anymore because you're insecure. You don't know what to wear. You don't like what you wear. Now you don't go out anymore. You've stopped seeing your friends. And this then becomes a habit, a cycle, and it gets reinforced. And those pathways get stronger and stronger, because the more those neural pathways are used, they get stronger. Then it's even harder to kind of get away from that. And you can never really get rid of a neural pathway. You can just not train it, kind of try to weaken it a little bit and create new pathways in your brain, so that you can just make those ones stronger, so that your brain will automatically go to them ones. Does that make sense? I hope I've explained that well. So that's why they say that nothing changes if nothing changes. So how do you change the end result, which is your reality? By changing the start, your thoughts. Simple as that. So if we can't necessarily change our thoughts, but we can become aware of the thoughts that are running, because a lot of us aren't aware. We're kind of going around on autopilot. Bless me. We're going around on autopilot, the ones who don't know anything about this, and they are just not aware of their thoughts. They're not aware because they don't know that their thoughts are actually creating their reality. So if you're not aware of your thoughts, that's the first place to start. And what you do is, you can do it in different ways. Meditation, or just awareness, is just so important. I always talk about awareness. It's just being aware. Being awake. Being in your awake mind, in your conscious mind, more than your subconscious. It's like when you're first driving to a place, you really have to be alert because you don't know the way, right? And then like over time, you know the way and you don't need to be conscious anymore. Your subconscious mind literally takes over the route. I need to charge my phone because it's gonna die. I got a new ring light. Do you like it? Anyway, so we need to be in our awake mind, which is our conscious mind, a little bit more. Because if we're not, our sleeping mind takes over, our subconscious mind takes over with habits that we've formed, with those neural pathways that we've strengthened, and they may not be good and they may not be beneficial for us. They are just what we've always done. So in order to change our results, we need to be aware of the thoughts that are currently running. Now, it's going to take a while for these thoughts to go away, per se. So you become aware of it. And it's kind of like when you meditate and you see the thought go by, you don't attach yourself to it. That's kind of what you need to do. So you'll be looking in the mirror, getting ready. And if you're not aware, you won't notice that you've already said to yourself 100 times that you're ugly. Because that's something that I used to do. You've already talked so negatively to yourself, like 100 times, and you haven't been aware of it yet. And then you wonder why you feel uncomfortable going out and you don't feel good, right? So becoming aware of the thoughts that are currently running. So you're looking in the mirror, you're getting ready, and you're aware that as you're looking at your body, you start to think negatively about it. Just don't attach yourself to it. Don't believe it, basically. Or you can just kind of say, that's not true. I like to, when that happens to me, is kind of talk to myself like I'm a child and say, girl, that's what you learnt when, you were a child. Somebody told you that. but they were just, you know, they were hurting and they were putting their hurt onto you and their pain onto you, and you didn't deserve that. And now you're an adult. You can create your own thoughts. You can create your own opinions now. You don't need to carry that wounded version of you anymore. This is now what I'm going to choose to believe. And you can just choose to believe something else. That it's really that simple. All you need to do is choose to believe something that is beneficial. It's so funny that we overthink the worst all the time. Why don't we start overthinking the best? Why don't we overthink the best? Why do we always overthink the worst? It's like, I've started to try and do that, incorporate that into my life. Literally be, like when they say be delusional, like be so delusional, like be your biggest fan, I can't express how important self-love is for this whole journey. Like, you really just have to be your biggest fan. Nobody's going to be your biggest fan. You have to be your own. Nobody is actually going to have you. When you're on your own in the room and it's dark, the lights are off and you're lying in bed and those thoughts come alive, only you have you. So you need to be nice to yourself. And when you can change your thoughts, you can change the thoughts that are currently running. You can change the programming that's currently running. Change it to something that is beneficial to you. So you want to change your thoughts. By changing your thoughts now, by changing from, no, there's nothing wrong with my body, I'm working on it at the minute, I'm going to the gym, you know, my body is healthy, it carries me, it's carried me through my whole life, I'm healthy, I can walk, I can talk, I can move my hands, I'm healthy. And that'll automatically change your feelings. Now you're feeling more love towards your body. You're feeling better because you haven't talked negatively to yourself that morning. So now you already feel better, which then today you might think, oh, you know what? I'm feeling good. I actually might go to the gym today. I'm actually going to go to the gym today because yesterday when you were talking to yourself, you talked yourself out of it because you told yourself how ugly you were. And you didn't go because your body felt horrible, you felt insecure, and you didn't want to walk into the gym. But today you've changed your thoughts to more positive ones, and now you're feeling like, I can go into the gym. And so you go into the gym. That's changed your behavior of going to the gym. It's changed your action of going to the gym. And the more you do that, the more you strengthen that pathway of, or even if a negative thought comes by, still being aware and saying, that is just an old program. It's just an old program. It's not the truth, and still go to the gym. And it's just by strengthening other pathways, because your old pathway would have been, I feel insecure. I feel like shit, I'm not going to the gym. And that's strong. So your brain will automatically try and go to that one. You need to try and steer it to a new direction, one that supports your future goals. So now you've changed your thoughts, you've changed your feelings, you've changed your behaviors, you've changed your actions. Yeah. And then you do that all the time, and it then becomes a habit. And that over time changes your results, your reality. And it's as simple as that. And what could be another example of that now? Just about the world, about yourself, maybe that you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that. If you're having a thought where you tell yourself that you don't deserve, you don't deserve the relationship, say, whether it's a friendship or like a romantic relation, you don't deserve it. And you've constantly told yourself that because when you were younger, your parents told you didn't deserve it, or you weren't lovable or something. And you took that with you into adulthood, which isn't true. Everybody is worth love, and that's it. Like, everybody is worth that. So that already, it's not as easy as me just saying that to you, but it is the truth. So then you carry that into adulthood, and you've repeated it so many times to yourself that it's just something that your brain does now without you having to even think. You just automatically think that you're unlovable. Now, that has then produced the behavior of, you're probably single, you probably don't have many friends, or when you do have friends, you lose them because you don't think you're worth that, so you subconsciously push them away. So what changes when you start to tell yourself the opposite? Change your thoughts, change the way you speak to yourself, change your thoughts, then changes not only your feelings, but it changes what the filter, the reticular activating system in your brain is now looking out for. So as we mentioned before, I'm pretty sure, that the reticular activating system is a filtering system in the brainstem, and it's a real thing. And basically what it does is it filters out external information on what it thinks is most important to us. And what it thinks is most important to us is what we focus on all the time. So if we're constantly focusing on thoughts of how we're not good enough and we don't deserve anything, we could have so many experiences in front of us, opportunities in front of us that are actually the opposite of that, but our brain will not, our filter will not allow us to, it'll just tune that out. We won't see it. We physically won't see it. All we will see is experiences, people, opportunities that prove our thought to us. And because we're only seeing that, then it reinforces that negative thought of, see, we're not good enough. When in reality, you could have had somebody literally coming up to you and saying, basically, you're amazing, like, you know, I really want to be friends with you, something, you know, as an example. But you probably didn't even hear that or notice that because your filter, which is a subconscious programming, meaning that you're not consciously aware of it doing that, has just tuned it out and you can't see it and you can't notice it. So then, when you change your thoughts, it over time changes your filter. You start focusing on the positive thoughts, on the opposite thoughts. I feel like my ring light is getting dimmer and brighter and dimmer and brighter. Anyways, by focusing on that, your reticular activating system is saying, oh, okay, this is important to her now. This is important to her now. Let's start now seeking out for people that are going to, you know, if somebody is coming up to her, let's pay attention. How are they actually speaking to her? Do they, you know, are they showing her that she is worthy, or maybe they want to be friends with her? This will all point out to you more. You'll start noticing things more that you didn't notice before. And they were always there. It's just your filter is now tuned to a different thing. It's tuned now to noticing something different because you're focusing on something different. And then again, you start to experience different things. Then you start to, your beliefs change. Your beliefs change because you're seeing things, and it's proving to you now your new thought, your new reinforced good positive thought. Your filter is looking out for things to support that. And the more you repeat that thought, the more your filter looks out for those things, because it's saying she's focused on this all the time. She's always talking about this. And that cycle continues. And then that strengthens. And that becomes a habit. That becomes a habit. And as long as that old pathway isn't getting strengthened, and neuroplasticity is real, your brain can change. So if you are running on negative thoughts that are just in a cycle, constant loop, you keep saying, I'm going to do it this time, I'm going to go to the gym Monday, I'm going to start Monday. You have all the motivation, Monday comes, you don't do it. It's just the pathways in your brain. You can change those. How beautiful is that you can change those? You're not stuck, basically, is what I'm saying. You're not stuck. And it feels like you're stuck. I know it does, but you're not stuck. And as long as those old neural pathways are not getting used, they'll eventually become weaker and weaker. And you'll have your new positive ones that actually support you in life. And so that's why they say nothing changes if nothing changes. It all starts with your thoughts. Change your thoughts. Something so simple that you have control over. You have control over your thoughts. Change your thoughts will then eventually change your reality. Nothing will change until you change your thoughts. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.